Okay, hi guys. So we are working on these like rule set and version topics. So whenever we add the new version for the application, so particularly every rule set will have a separate versioning configuration. So mostly in the application when personal edition or in the real time, so the default rule set name will be based on the division name. So exactly what is the division name for our application with a similar name only. So the rule set name will be configured. So though application will generate some other rule set names, by default PEGA will take the default name as alpha auto. So which is same as the division name here. Okay. And other thing is now in application, so whenever we add the version, so automatically in the locked version directly we can't add the rules or any existing rules. Now if update is required for any existing rules, so we need to move them to the new version and then only we can modify them. So without moving the rule to the latest version, we can't update them. So we can use them anywhere in application, but any modification requirement compulsory developer need to move the rule to the latest version and then only they can update. And after this, if a rule is in multiple versions, automatically the it will pick from the latest version rule only it is going to pick. Okay, if any old version and new version rules are there, by default in application, the new changes whatever did in the latest version, it will take the new version data only it is going to take. And there will be security for the rule set. So in the application rule set particularly, we can enable the security. In personal edition by default it is not enabled. So in the real time when you work in the company, any organization as a team, compulsory this security will be enabled. Okay, so for this in the security tab they will be adding this setting. So use checkout option they are going to enable. So before this security is enabled, we'll only get save as option for the old version rules, but once the security is enabled, so we used to get this private edit one button will be getting. So private edit purpose is like if any locked version rules are there, it will give that particular option. That button will be getting for all the locked version rules. And private edit will also get in another case. I will show it now. Suppose if a developer is working on one rule, so from latest version rule or any latest version rule if it is working, see for other developers it will show as private edit. See when it will show as private edit in one case is if it is already in locked version, for all locked version rules it shows private edit. Suppose if the rule is in new version, okay, and still one developer is working on that particular rule from the latest version, and any other developer try to open that, it will show the private edit. So to understand this, I'm going to add a new user id. See, for adding user ID, we can go with a save as feature. See, by default, during application creation, some ID is created. That is admin@alpha. So this is one default ID detail. So if you are going to generate any new ID, so there are other ways also like organization category operator ID template is there. We can also open from there. I'll show that in the coming classes. Some more IDs I'll create. Then I'll show you. But easy way and best way to add the user IDs is, see here already when present ID, when you have these details like work details will be configured, organization details and all, when main ID is generated, it will configure them automatically. Means also called as routing connections. Okay, what are routing connections? We'll understand soon. So like this team details will be there from which particular team this particular developer ID belongs. Okay, and there will be some password already generated right during application creation, and also it is updated with password rules. Okay, so if I use save as, what happens means this work details it will take automatically, security details it will take automatically, and also this application access is there, right? Access group details it is also going to take automatically. Only ID and name only we need to change. Means remaining details and all previously in this current ID, what are the settings we have, all it is going to take after using save as. So I'm using save as to add a new ID. See, new ID we can give with any format. Like see admin@alpha one you can give, or See, for the new IDs, at the rate is not mandatory. So what I do is I will be giving this format like alpha 1. Okay, I'm setting this ID with alpha 1. See now, okay, full name if want to change, you can change. And see remaining details like access group details, keep it same. I'm not changing. And particularly work details, it will take automatically from the previous ID. Team details, it will take automatically. And see password, it will be taking as rules by default. Suppose if you want to change the password for the new ID, you can change here. Otherwise, keep the same ID and gain for the present ID, you will go with the same password again. So save it. Okay, why I'm adding this ID means because I want to show this thing like how the private edit, other private edit, how it works and all I want to show. See now open any rule from latest version from the first ID. See now what happens, complete access, what are the rules access we have for this ID now. All the application access, all the rules access will get for the new ID also. Suppose if I want to open that again, in a new session, I'm going to open the ID which I generated, that is alpha ALHA1 in my application. Password will be rules. Separately, I didn't set. When I use save as, the ID password whatever we have for the previous ID, same will apply for the new ID. So you'll get all the application rules here. Now, what I want to show is in any rule I'll open from the latest version. I think customer section. See, customer section is from the latest version. See, other two buttons are checkout, check-in. Okay, private edit is one option when we'll be getting is for all the locked version rules. For example, vehicle section is again in the old version only. So what you can see is private edit. But other case when we get this private edit means the rule is in latest version and if this particular developer is going to do the modifications, you need to check out. Check out means log the rule and after the modifications check-in they'll be doing that. Check-in means unlock the role. So first remember these 2 points. If any user want to open and update the rule from latest version, so they'll be getting the checkout button. So by clicking on checkout, so they are going to log this particular rule. So if I click on checkout now, see now this particular rule will be locked by this particular developer. First ID is there, right? Admin@alpha. So with that particular ID, this particular rule is locked. Now if I open the other application with other means same application with other user ID, see try to open this customer section. So it is from latest version only, but I'll be getting private edit, I'll be getting. So it is from latest version only. See old version or locked version rules will show private edit, we know that. But if a rule is in latest version, when it will show private edit means if some particular person is already working on this particular rule, or if any person locked that particular rule and working, locked means he is working on this particular rule. So when he is working, that represents like private edit is showing means it represents that already some person is working on the particular rule. Okay, same rule other developer is working. So then you'll be getting other case where we get private edit is, so if one developer is working on the latest version rule, so for other developers it will show as private edit. Again, when we can get out from private edit means, see in the first ID now, okay, if I do any changes here, maybe I'm going to delete a one property here. See, other thing is only if I click on save, it will not update for other developers. See now if I run the flow, see if I run the flow in this particular application, like from this main ID, for me it will not show date of birth property. Okay, but if I run the same flow in the other user ID, see same application access he is also having, but if I run the flow from the other ID, it shows date of birth property. I'll tell the reason. For this user, it will show the date of birth property, but there it is not showing date of birth because see, I told you yesterday one point, right? The personal rule set or virtual rule set. See, whenever I did the changes in this application, so my personal rule set here is admin@alpha, right? So for this first ID, admin@alpha is the my personal rule set. Suppose see for other user, see now changes are done in the personal rule set. If I don't check in, what happens? The changes did not happen at application rule set level, only at personal rule set level. Only for the ID only it will be changes will be applied. So for other developers, if they want to apply the changes, what they need to do? They need to check in that. When they check in, then the changes will apply in the application rule set, and so other developers who are working in application can see the changes or view the changes. So now what I'm going to do is, so if I don't check in, the changes will apply only for this user under personal rule set. So he will get the output, but other developers who are accessing the same application will not get the changes if they don't click on check-in button. So if I now click on check-in, the changes will apply for all developers. If you practice, it will be easy only. Maybe technically these terms and all some maybe confusion will be there initially, but just to practice, we enable the security for 1 week and practice this, automatically you can understand easily. Now if you open the other ID, now close this one, again run the flow. Now it will not show the date of birth because their check-in is completed. When check-in is done, the changes will apply for all the persons, like other team members who access the application, who has access to the same application. The changes will apply for all the other team members also. So when they don't check in means it will apply the changes only for the same person. But once check-in is completed, the changes will apply for all the other team members also. So like that, the thing is whenever they are updating the rules during the modifications or after locking, again they need to unlock that. So check-in is also check-in the changes, and also it is other meaning is unlock that particular rule, so that when you unlock, right, then only other developers can access this particular rule, or the changes also can be used by, or what are the changes done by this operator can be viewed by the other developers. Now it will not show private edit because already it is checked in, right? So if you again open the same customer design only, right? So now it will not show private edit. Now it will show you checkout button. Even if this particular person want to do any modifications, he can open and do any modifications for this. Okay, if he is going to check out for other persons, it will show as private edit now. So like this, in application private edit, you will get in these two cases. So after securing a rule set, so when it is in locked version, you'll get that. And also if the one person is working on that, and for other person, it will be showing as private edit. And whenever a modification is required from the latest version rules, they need to click on checkout, log the rule, and do the required modification. So that is, the rule is available for modifications when you see the checkout, and it is if it is checkout means it is compulsory from the latest version only. Okay. So if it is private edit means it is from the old version, locked version or old version. If it is showing checkout button for that particular rule means then the rule is already in the latest version. Because latest version rules also, once editing is there, whenever editing is required, even latest version rules also regularly we can modify. Okay. And like this, once the modifications are completed, again we need to check in the changes or unlock the particular rule. So these buttons, when we work under any application, so these buttons will be getting. So though we don't create manually anything, so these buttons we have to use regularly during the modification or during adding the application rules in the PEGA platform. That is one thing. Just check and practice few days, you will be able to understand them. And here like this, whenever any rule, only if you save and if you don't check in, it will go to this, I told you, right? It will be virtual rule set. Suppose for other developer ID, see for this developer, what is the personal rule set or virtual rule set is, see the ID, user ID, if you go to the operator profile, See, for this developer, alpha 1 is the personal rule set. Okay, so alpha 1 is the personal rule set for this operator. But for first operator, admin at the rate alpha, here at the rate it is showing in the present version, but not required. Alpha 1 is the main ID that is considered as the personal rule set for this operator. But for other, for first operator means admin at the rate alpha is the personal rule set for that particular ID. But for this particular application, see, this is also same application, but the user ID, whatever they use, so that is their personal rule set. Okay? Like that, any changes during the modifications, and if they don't check in, the changes will only reflect in the personal rule sets. That's why when we check out any rule, the rule will go to personal rule set, and then finally we need to check in that. Otherwise, the changes will happen only from the same developer level, only the changes will apply. But to reflect for all the developers, we need to compulsory click on the check in option. Another thing is during these executions and all, generally the execution done, a work ID details will be loaded and work ID or work object forms will be displayed, right? And these work object forms also at a time, only one developer can access one work object at a time. Suppose if developer 1, developer 2 are there, developer 1 is using some work object page and opening and processing that. At the same time, developer 2 can't access the same work object. So if one developer is working on one transaction, so same time other developers can't access the same. So it will show some error, like already in the server level what happens means whenever any developer execute any flow or transaction, the entry will be created under some table called sys underscore logs. PR underscore sys underscore log, some default tables will be there. Many tables will be there in the server, right? Like that, there will be some log table related to the execution transactions or the executing when executing work objects. So it will be added to some a default log table called PR underscore sys underscore log. So whenever a developer is processing that, so entry will be added, but after processing is completed, entry will be removed from this. So during processing means if any other developer try to open the same work ID, why this particular point we are saying means because every developer when we open this application, so if I click on the class group, I can see other developer work IDs also I can see here. See here the previous and all generated by first id, but these remaining two last two whatever we created, right, it is generated by other developer. Like that, in the real time different team members will be executing the transactions, and we can see that list in the under the class group information we can find the list. So here you can see the differentiation here based on the names. Here names are like this, but in the real time full name will be given. Like suppose in the real time means you can update your full name details under the operator page. Here means we did not update, but in the real time, so what is the full name is there, right? So that it is going to display in the name option. Updated by, it will show here in the name will be showing, full name it will be showing here. Okay, so that who executed that and all they can identify. Suppose some pending transactions also will be there, they can open and process them. Okay, so but let's see. Suppose from the one of the id I'm going to this is first id or second. Okay, I will run one transaction, but I'm not going to complete this. See, still I'm going to open, means I'm going to still process this. But see, this is the ID. Suppose the same ID, if I try to open from the other user, see, I'll open that ID again in this particular application. This is also same application, but user is different. So when one user is already processing that, if I try to open the same, I'll be getting the error, means the second developer will be getting the message, error message that so it is already being modified by, means that is the name of that first ID. That's why it will show as admin. Otherwise, what is the full name they give? So that full name will show here, so that simultaneously they can't edit the work object here. So because what happens, how it will identify means in the server, whenever any work object is processed, so this particular table is there at log table. It will check every time when any user is opening the transactions and checking that, it will check it in the log table if any user is processing that work object or not. If no one is processing means it will allow them to open, but if already it is opened by one person means or one developer means, for other developer it will show this message. Okay, if already one developer is already processing that means, then it will show the message for other developer that it is already used by other team members. Okay, so like this in application, these are the some of the internal things. Okay, but we need to make a note, like interview level and all, they will be asking some questions on this. Then apart from this, suppose if I complete the work object from the first ID, suppose I'm closing here. Okay, if you close this tab, then it is meaning that it is closed, like it is completed from that particular ID. But we did not finish the transaction till the end. We did not finish at the first page only. We closed that. But if it is closed means, then the entry will be removed from that queue table. Now in the second ID, if I want to access the same work object now, again once refresh and open this. Okay, click on this class now, open this same work ID. Now it will allow the user for this user now, it allows the work ID to open. Now he can open without any error. Okay. So during processing means it will not allow, but once the transaction is closed in that particular user, then for other users they can open and see the transaction, or if it is pending means we can also complete the transaction also they can do. Okay. These all developer level only, not end user level. No need to bother about this. So these all during the development only will get all these features, right? So we need to know as a developer. Now, okay, I'm closing the second portal, second application I'm going to close. So now again come back to these, some criteria will be working. See, basically in PEGA application, whenever we use these rules, right? See, before that, here in the menu, it is only showing the only one flow, but it should show the other flows also, right? When we add this setting in the definition page under the cases and data, basically not only one flow, it should show all the flow names under the menu, but sometimes it will not show. Let's see the reason. uh, this open this insurance flow. See, basically it is some locking is applied. Sometimes we need to try to use save as, move the rule to the new version. Some server issue is there sometimes, or sometimes move the rule to the new version and check in that. Now check it again whether it is showing in the menu or not. Okay, now it is showing. See, sometimes if it is in locked version it is there, or if it is not in latest version also, yeah, means because at the time of first version, after creating the rule only we added the new version, right? So sometimes flows, if it is in locked version, it may not reflect immediately. So in that case, if any flows are there in older versions or locked versions, so move them to the new version, then automatically it will show the name in the menu here, because previously it shows only the customer flow, right? So you may get it out. So if you move the rule to the new version or latest version, then it shows the name again. Okay, automatically it will show them. So like this, some things we have to notice as a developer. Now, like in application, some criteria will be having. These are also some important things, and we need to know compulsory as a developer. We'll be using in this circumstance and available types compulsory. We have to manually define. Remaining three and all we don't define manually. PEGA will apply, but we need to know the points regarding that. As a developer, PEGA development level means we'll be adding these rules separately. But what is circumstance and all we'll again understand in the coming classes. Practicals, conditions, these are condition rules. So we'll apply some conditions by using this topic, and also in the next classes we'll also understand these availability types also. And see what are these criteria means. PEGA basically has some algorithm running in the backend. See, whenever we work on the application rules, so PEGA automatically executes some algorithm points or algorithm steps. It will be running automatically, which are already defined in the base platform. Means separately it will not be applied. Automatically it applies for every rule in the backend. Okay, so that algorithm contains these criteria, like important criteria will apply. So those first initially we need to understand them individually, like what are criteria names and each one how it will apply individually. Again, after that, individually knowing after each criteria, then in the algorithm, what is the order and all we can understand, like in which order it is going to run, in which particular sequence it is going to execute all these things. So basically, when these criteria will apply means, suppose if a user is going to map one rule in other rule, for example, if you take any rule, like if you map a flaction inside assignment, or inside the flaction if you map the section, or inside section if you map a property. So automatically whenever you call one rule in other, so this criteria will apply and verify. Suppose if I run this flow, compulsory based on these flaction connections, UI connections and property connections. So internally PEGA will check for every rule internally. Every time like some different rules are connected directly and indirectly inside the work object page, right? So here all the things, like every time when we execute anything, it will be like numerous number of rules which are defined in application. It is going to check it in the server, and at that time these criteria gets executed. Okay, so like one of the criteria is circumstance. Second, see, order will be different when executing that all. Order will be different in the algorithm. That you'll understand in Monday class or other classes. You'll understand that. So circumstance is one name, one of the criteria name. Class and rules hierarchy is another criteria name. Rule authorization process or rule access group is other name. Rule cache and rule availability types. These are 5 different criteria will apply in the algorithm. Okay, in a 10-step points will be there in the algorithm also. It will be having some 10-point algorithm will be there. So in that all these will apply. Okay, but in 10 points how only 5 criteria will apply means, because in these again some sub points also will be there. So in class and rule set again in 2 different points it will apply. Okay, like this available types also in 3 different points it will apply. So even though the names are one, sometimes the same will be applied in one to more than one type also it will apply in the algorithm. That algorithm we'll understand later in the next classes. So but before that, individually we'll understand these things. In that manually no need to, particularly we are not going to define the class and rule authorization and rule cache. It will PEGA will be server level. It will be automatically generating them, but know the meaning of that. Okay, so circumstance is the first one. So regarding this, see in application, this is easy to add some template with or condition templates will be there. So using this in application rules for different rules in application for like UI pages, mostly circumstance will apply for the UI pages in application. Like that, if any or conditions are needed for the UI pages or any for any business logic, then we use these circumstance conditions we will apply for one or more columns. Maybe you can't understand this completely because today we are not practically implementing the circumstance option. Only I'm discussing technically, because when decision conditions are required, then we are going to work on these circumstance thing. So like that, circumstance is particularly easy to apply some or logic based on the single or multiple properties. Based on one or more properties, we can apply these circumstance condition. This is one criteria. Whenever you use any rule in application, like see mainly for, for fractions, we'll apply it all, right? So whenever we call the fraction in a flow, compulsory it will check any circumstance conditions are there or not. It will check. but every time for every page, no need to define that. Okay, only maybe in few cases only will define that, but it will check every time any circumstance, date and time range conditions are applied or not. Like that, it will check based on this one of the criteria. Okay, but how to define and all we'll soon understand. And class and rule set hierarchy, so already we know some regarding this class and rule set, some points we know, like class types we have predefined and user defined classes. Again, in the classes category we have abstract and concrete classes are there, like different class groups are there. So basically, in the class hierarchy, first if you take, see, it will check always any rules and all will be mostly adding in the user defined classes, but still in the background some data when reading some any business logic till now we did not define, and that we will define in the next classes. So some rules and all in the predefined classes already, some configuration will be defined, and those we are going to use in our requirement. Example, UI templates, like section we worked, right? All the UI templates are already built in the predefined classes, and when we use them in our mapping, UI mapping, so in the application UI level, UI rules we are creating in user defined classes only, but in the background it will run many templates from predefined classes also. It will be executed in the backend like that. So whenever a rule is there or any rule if you are using in application, so we create in the user defined classes only, but it will also execute some data from the some all the predefined controls whatever we use, all the control settings whatever we use, it is configured in the predefined classes. So those gets executed during usage of these templates and all. Automatically some predefined rules also gets executed, so from the built-in classes. So whenever a rule if we are using in application, first it will check it in the inheritance level, pattern level or user defined classes it is going to check. Then it is going to check it in the predefined classes. So in predefined classes means particularly work layer, most of the data will be creating, right? So sometimes in other classes also will be creating, but most of the data will be creating in the work classes. So there it will check about the user defined data whatever we create in the organization, division or unit classes, it will check. Then if any connected combination rules are there for which are used from the built-in configuration, it will check it in the predefined classes. Okay, so like it will check in user defined classes only first, and also if any associated rules are used from the built-in classes also, it will check for every time. Suppose even if you map property inside a section or section inside flaction or flaction inside flow, every time it is going to apply. So we don't know that if some kind of configuration is running and all, we don't know, but it will apply every time. It will check it in the backend. So first it will check it in the class hierarchy means it will check it in the user defined classes and check it in the, at last it will check it in the built-in classes, or it will check like a pattern inheritance it will check, and then it will check it in the direct classes, which is direct inheritance classes. Direct inheritance classes here are predefined classes in this. Similarly, we have rule set hierarchy also will apply. Same rule set hierarchy also, like here again I told, right, rule sets we have user defined, and also like classes PEGA also has these predefined rule sets. Again, some 20-30 predefined rule sets which will be there mostly. So again in application we add directly under user defined classes and user defined rule set only by default. By default, alpha auto, for example, if you're using your application, alpha auto will be the similar name. Like this, once these user defined some predefined rules also it will be reading in the backend, right? So at that time it will check it in the that particular data, it will check it in the predefined rule sets also. Same way like how class inheritance will apply, here also it will check it in the user defined pattern classes in the rule set hierarchy, and also it will check it in the predefined classes for the predefined rule sets. Okay? Same like user defined is first, and then it will check it in the predefined. Say same will apply for the rule set also. First it will check it in the user defined rule set, then internally PEGA will be having so many built-in rule sets. So those come under predefined rule set configuration. Then we have this option called one of the other criteria. So class and all nothing to do, just it will happen automatically in the backend. Okay, manually nothing to do anything here. Then if you see the other thing, now if you see the other one, so it is authorization process. See, authorization means suppose say when a developer is working in one application, like under one implementation or under the same framework application. So if a developer is having access to that particular data, means again sometimes what happens means every developer in the same application also can't access few data in the platform. Suppose if the application is divided into more modules again. So in the implementation only further if they add any more modules again, sometimes they may not give access for that particular operator to work on that module level. So if you work in the main parent class level only, if you have the access means only there you can use the data. But if you have access to, you don't have access to the module level, then you will not be having access to use the data in the application. That all developer to developer again there will be some restrictions can be there. So if you have access to that means you can use it. Suppose if your user role doesn't have the permissions for accessing this, you can't use that one. So like that based on the computer. So all the permissions for the developer will be given within the application or within the internal application module level. So these permissions come under access group concept. So access group is the main thing where it is going to decide like which application access we have, which portal access we have, and inside that application again what access roles only will decide individually whether you can execute the rules or not, whether you can add the rule or not, modify that or not, delete that or not. So different restrictions can be given for the developer. But by default, right, if you are working in a person edition, we get all permissions to access the rules in the platform. But if you work in the real time, there can be some limitations, some restrictions will be there for the even though different developers are work under same application also. So one developer may get access to few things and some other developer may not get access to the all the configurations. Actually this particular thing we'll understand in the coming topic, some security concepts I'll discuss. Then I'll discuss about this part. Okay, so if you get the permissions like access is there, like access roles, different permissions are given to your id, then you will be able to access like that. When using the rule or when executing the rules also, pega will check these authorization whether the developer is having the required permissions to use that rule or not. Suppose if already access is there for that operator means it will be used. Like if access is not there, it may throw the error. Okay, because sometimes they may restrict the access from execution, from modification, or from deleting that particular data in the platform. So if restrictions are there, then there will be some limitations where they can use that or access that. But if no restrictions means completely they'll be getting access to that particular features and options. So this is also going to, it is going to verify for every rule we use in the application, whether that particular rule access is there for this operator or not. If it is going to, it is going to check in. If access is there means then only they can use that. If access is not there, then it will be showing some error message that you can't have the access to use that or execute that particular rule. Okay, but we have by default all the access permissions will be there. Okay, but to restrict that I'll show you how to do it later. This is one of the criteria pega will be checking for every rule we use in the application. And then we have the other criteria called, see this one separately, developer will not do any changes in this, so it will be again done by some business architects or lead architects will take care about this configuration. Okay, so lead architects will be there, so they are going to set this configuration for your user IDs. Okay, so mainly authorization or access group contains three connections like application access, then portal access and access roles and privileges. So these three are the main points we will get the security permissions. Okay, based on these three only what we can access in application and what we can't access in application will be decided. Then like this again server level, one more internal criteria will be there, that is rule cache. See, this rule cache, we can't first of all view that one. That is some internal memory. See, clipboard is one kind of server, right? Like that in the rule base, one server will be there which we can't view. But inside this server, whenever we execute any data again, see, first time it will add to this cache. Okay. Suppose second time if you execute the same, suppose customer flow first time we are executing, so from cache it will load that. First from the rule based table the data will be there. See, first remember in PEGA application it's a virtual platform. Though we can see the rules there, I told some many times this point. All the data will be connected to the PEGA server rule base, and from there only PEGA will be loading these rules in the application. So here also whenever we try to use any rule, so PEGA will be loading from the rule based table to the cache memory first, like rule cache it is going to load. Suppose second time and next time also if you want to load the same or executing that same, then it will be checking in the cache only. Always remember first time it will check it in the cache as a first step, but if not there means it will then load from the rule base and add to the cache. For loading to the cache there will be some 6 to 7 steps are there. I'll tell you in next classes you will understand that. So like that rule cache is the first step, it will check in the cache. But see, by default first time when using that rule it will not be there in the cache. Suppose it will add to the cache in the first instance, second time it will be there in the cache. Suppose if the session is open, see, session is open means if I log in and if I continue that login up to the like 3 or 4 hours, within that 4 hours, the cache memory will be same. Suppose if I did not log off from the session, like 9 o'clock, if I log in until 12 o'clock, I keep my session open. See, first time after loading to the cache, second time it will directly take the data from the cache memory. So if you did not log off from the session, then it will directly take the data from the cache memory. Suppose if the session is closed, like log off and log in again, then the cache data will lost. It is going to lose that memory. Again, next time if you want to load that, it will load from the rule based table and add to the cache memory. Like that regularly, this rule cache is one of the internal thing where it is going to add the data to the cache to use that in the application. So if first time compulsory it will load to the cache. Suppose if the session is open from next time, again and again if you are using the same rule or same data, it will again pick from the cache memory directly. No need to again load to the cache. It will directly take it from the cache memory. Suppose if session is closed, again the data in the cache will not be available. Okay, but this point also I'll again explain you in the algorithm level where it will come. So in which particular scenario, which step it is going to process step by step, I'll tell you. So this is also, so 2, 3, 4 criteria and all nothing to do manually. So it is already generated by PEGA. Only know the points like class hierarchy, rule set hierarchy, rule authorization process also. By default, what are the settings are there, you'll be getting those settings. But any changes are done in the settings means then you will not get any required permissions. Like if you have the required permissions by default means you can access those. But if permissions are restricted means like any privileges or access roles are set for any particular classes, again those access roles also will be set for every individual class they can set. Okay, so that all I'll again show you like this cache memory. So then another criteria where we need to use regularly is availability types. See, what these available types will decide means, suppose if the rule is in different versions, right? Suppose sometimes, say any rule if you open compulsory, it will be having the type as available. If you notice any rule anytime, if you open any rule it will be shown as available. By default it will be available. But see, when the other types we have to take into the count means, suppose if you want to drop any rule or if you want to read the previous version rule or if you want to drop some different multiple version rules. If you want to drop and read some long back, if you create any rule, if you want to read that, like the different available types will have these different purpose. So we have to use them, like as a developer we need to manually set these availability types whenever required. Means automatically every rule will take it as available. Available meaning is it is available for update, and anytime a developer can open and update the rule. But always if you want to do some other changes in the rules, or if you want to drop any rules in application, then we need to change these availability options. Okay, so like final, withdrawn, not available, okay, block, some five types are available. So all these five types and all, whenever we are going to take a backup, before we take the backup in the application, so we are going to use these options in that. So one of the option is available. This is the first option, and practically I'm going to show these options in the next classes. So not available, what it does is, see, if you want to drop the latest version rule, suppose if I'm having some rule in three versions, latest version rule, if I want to drop and if I want to read the previous version, then you have to go for these not available. Maybe technically it will be difficult to understand, but practical I will show all these things in the next classes. So that is one purpose. Not available will ignore the latest version. So final, basically when we use final means, suppose if there is no further modifications, and if you want to use that as a final, available means it is open for update. But as a developer, if you want to set any, there is no further modifications required for that, and if you think that that is the final update for that, then you can particularly confident that no modifications are required, means you can set it as final, we can set. So final, if you set, then that is the final version rule, no modifications are required for that. But actually for user defined rules, actually we don't use much this option. Very rarely, very rare only we'll be setting. But see, PEGA built-in rules are there, many built-in rules will be there in PEGA. So for them it will be having these status. Okay, I will open some rule. Okay, there are many predefined rules in PEGA, so which will be set as final. Okay, example, see, some built-in rules which are available in application will be having this status as final, means that is the final version, no modifications are required for this. Okay, so like that, in case of user defined rules also, if they think that no further modifications are required, then they can change the status to final. Like that, withdrawn, what it does is, in the application multiple versions are there in the same class. Suppose current class, how many, suppose some 4 or 5 versions are there, but if you want to read the data from the previous class data or other classes data, again here whenever withdrawn is used or not available is used, class hierarchy also will apply. Basically class hierarchy, some sequence is there. Like work is unit class, that is one, then it will check it in the division class, then it is going to check it in organization class, then it will check it under work hyphen cover hyphen, then it will check under work hyphen, then it will check under at the rate base class. This is the hierarchy. For example, like that, any data class data is there means data, then division class, organization class, data hyphen at the rate base class. Like that, integration level, any data if they are going to use int class, then division, organization, int hyphen at the rate base class. So like that, every time where we create the rules or where we use the rules accordingly, automatically this hierarchy will apply in the backend, even when working on these availability types. Because available types, particularly withdrawn, see, in one class all versions it is going to drop. So okay, how many versions are there in that version, in that class, it will drop again. But it will check if again the same data is in the previous versions are there, means it will read that data. Okay, so like that, I'll show withdrawn. Maybe you can't understand completely now, but when I show practical example, you can understand. Blockout means everywhere that particular data will be blocked. Means if you once block the data anywhere in application, in all places it will be blocked. Means if you, after some usage and all, you have some different requirement and you can't use that particular previous data whatever we created. If you don't want to use that, set it as block. So we can't use that rule in the anywhere in that application. So like that, so there are some available types. So when to change, when to use them, we'll understand in the next classes. Okay. So go through these. I'll discuss in the next classes, guys. Maybe tomorrow, I'm not sure if I'm having some work tomorrow. Maybe if I'm available, I'll be taking you session on the same time. Okay. If not available, we'll connect on Monday, guys. Okay. Thanks, everyone.